In other words, it used to be you were in the thousands and you wanted to bring it down to the tens. What happens when you're in the hundreds and you now bring it down to the ones? Or you bring it down to the tens and now you get into the sub-part per billion. It doesn't make sense anymore. So dilution is really big in the power in the US. I have to say here in Canada, it's not that common. In the US, it's really got a good foothold for power, coal-fired power plants. And that's just what the industry's kind of chosen to go with, and it doesn't make it good or bad. I know in a lot of other places, they've gone with hot wet extractive for coal-fired power plants, and they think that's the only way to go. When it comes to dilution, the advantage of dilution at the time was when you're dealing with really high concentrations of SO2 and NO and CO and all those gases, what you can do is, by having a very good air cleanup module, which costs more than most analyzers, you create this dilution air and you dilute the sample coming down. And it has two effects. One is it reduces the amount of high concentration gas coming down to your analyzer. It cuts it by, depending on your dilution ratio, 50 to 1 or 100 to 1. So if you ever did have a leak of this gas, it's not overly toxic. You're not bringing thousands of ppm down, you're bringing tens of ppm down. The other advantage is you didn't need conditioning equipment, because by diluting it with instrument air, you're keeping the gas hot and wet, but by adding all this nice dry air to it, that humidity that was trapped in the gas is absorbed into the dry air and allowed to carry down. So you don't need chillers or anything else, which is a big plus. You don't have all that maintenance on the conditioning equipment. And then of course you'd use analyzers that were either made for ambient air or low ppm concentrations. So it served its purpose at the time. The trade-off was stop with the conditioning and spend money doing all this fancy air cleanup with your cleanup module, because that would be a weak point, you could imagine. In the case of dilution, they've ran it for a long time. If you were to look at a hot wet extractive system, you wouldn't have any conditioning, you wouldn't have any dilution panels. But look at what technology is best for your application. Regardless of what you used in other parts of the plants, regardless of what your neighbor used. Use what's right for you so you have reduced maintenance, most uptime, and most accurate number for your application.